Hey everybody, welcome to the Godfall review. Today I'm thinking of doing this review a little bit different. I want to make it in sections and see how that goes, because normally I just do it freeform, but I feel like sections might be a better way to do it. Especially for this game, because it's pretty clear to me that there are a couple sections that the game needs to really work on more than anything else, so that's how I'm thinking I'm going to do it. And let me know what you think in the comments below from doing it this way instead of the other way that I normally do it. I'm just going for it because I want to see what people like more. Alright, with that out of the way, let's get to it. Now, what's a better place to start than the story? Because this game, it doesn't have one, really. I mean, it does. It has a story. But the story is just so simple. It's like a series of fetch quests. You have to go collect these sigils, follow the objective marker all the time. That's basically all you do in the game, is follow the objective marker, which leads you to the next place to fight, go to a place, fight, go to a place, fight. The story is not complex at all. There's no twists or turns at all. You fight a given boss. Oh, you have to collect sigils in the area, which means you have to go around and fight more enemies in the area and mini-bosses that give you sigils so that you can fight the big boss, so that you can do it all over again. Even after only like 7-8 hours of play, it starts to take a toll on you, and it starts to make you realize that this is very repetitive. It's a very slow method of doing things. It just doesn't work in terms of story mechanics. I won't even get into gameplay yet. That's a separate section. But right now, it's just so tedious to go through the story because it's an interesting idea as a world, and I feel like there's a lot more potential here than what they did with it. I feel like there's a lot more of a character within the actual world itself than there is in the story that they put in here, because it's just so bland. It's just, I don't know how to say it any more clearly. It lacks everything that a good story needs. It has too much direction, not too little, but that's just the problem. You have no choice as a character. You have no feeling of immersion. It's just like, do this and carry on. Yeah, that's the best way I could put it here. Now, the gameplay in this game is the real meat and potatoes of everything. You would come back to this game for the gameplay, given that it's just kind of addictive. It's actually really good. I'm genuinely surprised to say that, but most of the weapons feel like how they should feel. The Warhammer is very clunky and large, but it seems like it has a large impact. I don't think the damage is necessarily as good as it could be, but I feel like the impact is there, and I feel like as a character in the game, you can feel it. Whereas the twin blades are very fast, and it's almost like they're not even hitting the enemies. In that, I actually kind of like that. I think it works better that way. The sword feels very middle of the road, and the great sword is, good. It's fine. The polearm has a little bit of an issue. In my opinion, I personally like it the least out of all the weapons, but that's my personal preference. I don't think that's a gameplay thing. I just think that's my style of fighting. So, since I lean towards the Warhammer and the longsword, I'm going to talk about them the most. Cutting through enemies couldn't be more fun if they tried. Honestly, I think the only thing they could do better in this game is give you more choice in enemy types to fight. And I mean, there's a lot. There's a good amount, actually. There's like 40 plus enemy types, which is great. That's fantastic. But the thing is, even with all those 40, the way they recycle them is not very good. It leaves you thinking, oh, they could have done this better. Oh, I see a problem here. Oh, why am I fighting the same guy 4 times and I haven't found this other one at all? And it is kind of your choice who you fight, in a way. Besides the main story quest, obviously you have to fight everyone in the main story quest. but you can run past most enemies and be completely fine. And well, there's another issue there with being able to fight whoever you want. If you do fight one of the big bosses, you fight them in stages. They have different stages of health, which is good. I actually like that mechanic because it means that when you respawn, they respawn at their stage of health that you were fighting them at, which is good because with any other mini-boss in the entire game, you can respawn and then just kill them over and over by doing tiny bits of damage and then dying and then respawning and doing tiny bits of damage and dying and respawning. But with the bosses, you actually have to put a little bit more effort into it. And it can get to be pretty hard to play this game, which is a positive. It really is, because playing this game is fun. It is a very fun experience. It just leaves you a little bit more drained each time, and slowly over time you start to realize that it's got great gameplay mechanics and they function really well, and as you level up you get more and more. At the start you only have light attack and heavy attack, but then you get all these combos. You get the northern style techniques, southern style techniques, which are like little bonuses that you get to each weapon, and they're all unique and individual. And then you get shield bonuses where you can throw your shield in different ways. And that's very interesting how they keep adding more on as you progress in level. And they give you levels all the time, which is also great. And it makes you feel like, oh, great, that's fantastic. But then you realize one more thing about the gameplay. It just leaves you feeling like, even though you get those little bonuses, those little benefits, it makes you feel like this is the same combo I've been doing forever. I just keep doing the same thing over and over and over again. And although I've gotten better in terms of power and in terms of strength overall, it doesn't make you feel that much more accomplished. Once you learn the style of your weapons and how they fight, that's it. That's the skill threshold. It's very low. And I mean, sure, there's some level of complexity to it, but if I can understand it really easily after minimal time, it's not a good enough system, really. I feel like there should be a lot more versatility in the weapons. And I don't know how to fix that with this current system that they have in place. I don't think they could have done any better with the way that they have things currently laid out. I feel like they'd have to start from scratch to fix the glaring issue with the gameplay that I have, which is it's too samey. It's too much of the same. Although that same is good, it's just too much of it. You end up feeling like there's not any real change over the course of your playthrough. I mean, you get different weapons, which is great, but that all the warhammers function the same. All the short swords function the same. I mean, the dual swords and the long sword. They all function essentially identical to another version of the given weapon. Which means even though you're getting better weapons, there's functionally no difference between the short sword that you had that was a blue, which is a rare, and the short sword that you get that's a legendary, which is a yellow. There is functionally no difference except for the increase in power and maybe a stat boost, which is unfortunate. I found a warhammer that had a change in it that actually, when you used the special technique, it gave you a bonus. It slowed down time, which was a big benefit to me in a boss fight, because it actually meant that I could slow down the boss's attacks as well as all the minions' attacks, because the bosses usually have minions. And it made me feel like I actually gained something in getting that weapon, and I would never trade it out. But those are far too dispersed throughout your gameplay to make any real difference. And once you have the two of those that you're going to use, you're done. That's it. There's a threshold for a bunch of other stuff too that I'm just not even going to get into here. That'll be in the progression section, which is next. But for right now, gameplay is just boring. And would I come back to this game for the gameplay? No, because it's not worth it. It's not worth your time. after a couple hours, I feel like that's the most you'll get out of it, really. Maybe you'll beat the game. That's about the extent of it, because the end game content for playing is non-existent. But we'll get into that later as well. But yeah, I guess that's all I have to say about this. Now, progression was the part that I thought I would have the most fun in, because I used to play D&D a lot, and I still kinda do. The thing is, I always like making characters that have special abilities, things that they're really, really good at, and then they don't have to be good at anything else. I want to min-max a character to a point where I can go, this is what they're good at, I need to capitalize on that to do well. And personally, I feel like the system they have with Valor Plates and all the weapons allows you to do that quite well. I feel like each Valor Plate is unique in its feel in terms of how you feel when you're using it, because cosmetically it's completely different. All of them are wonderfully made cosmetically, and I feel like all the weapons and armor look great. That's the extent of the praise that I'll give it, because all of the effects, the bleed effect, the chill, the burning, they all are essentially the same effect. They couldn't even give them unique variables. Like, unfortunately, all of them just are a damage over time. Anything from poison to cursing to bleed, they all do the same thing, so essentially it doesn't matter what Valor Plate you're using for effects. Whatever works the best in terms of damage overall is what matters. Because bleeding's no different than fire. If someone's on fire, then good for them, but that doesn't really change anything all that much. Okay, when it comes to leveling, I personally feel like the leveling system is great in terms of what there is. But the problem with the leveling system is they give you levels all the time, which is, you would think would be a positive. You would think that'd be something that I'd be saying, oh, that's great. But it actually undermines the overall leveling system. I would have preferred if they had more useful upgrades, and if they gave you levels less often. I think what they have is great. I just feel like there's a little bit too much, and I mean, you can go for everything, but what does it matter if the entire gameplay loop is boring to begin with? You're spending all your time on making a character that's great that you don't ever get to really play with, because what are you gonna fight? What are you gonna do? Oh, you can go up a level. Oh, that's great. And you can upgrade your weapon too. That's also great. But the thing about upgrading weapons is there's a certain extent that you upgrade them to, and then they're just done. That's the max they can go. That's it. I would have preferred if you could upgrade them continuously to a point where the weapons you find at level 1, if you want to keep them for very later use and you really like the look of the weapon, you keep that weapon and you can keep upgrading it for more and more and more, and it's a big investment to keep that weapon with you, and most people wouldn't do it anyways, but you'd have the option to. They don't give you that option. You can use a level 1 sword, sure, but you'll completely screw yourself over, and that's what I did. I used a level 1 sword because screw them. But in all honesty, it just ends up making you feel like there's no point in playing. It gets so boring so quick that it's very unfortunate, and it leaves you feeling underwhelmed overall. They had a lot more potential in this game. They should have done a lot more with it, but they didn't. And it makes me very sad to see it in the state that it's in. Personally, I feel like this game should deserve a 5 at best. But in all honesty, I'm going to give it a 4. Because I can't bring myself to play it anymore because it just bores the crap out of me. It's not worth my time. Nor is it worth anyone else's, really. I would not tell anyone to get this game unless you're fine with only having a couple of hours of play that is actually fun. First hours of play were great, and it looks beautiful, but that doesn't matter if it's hollow. That's all I got to say about that. Well, I hope everyone had a good time, and I hope that you all enjoyed. I'll see you in the next one. like, subscribe if you liked, and check out another video if you want. Alright,